Great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. It is indeed a magnificent Monday as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. We have our good friends from DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services, joining us for a bit. We invite you to be a part of a discussion. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. I trust that you had a relaxing and safe, enjoyable weekend as we look forward to another productive, engaging, rewarding week. I invite you to be a part of our discussions throughout the week and share, contribute, be informed, hopefully, somewhat empowered and entertained. Certainly do so as you join me start in the morning for the record. And the extended hours now, gives us a chance to engage you even more so. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. In a bit, our friends from the Department of Children and Family Services will join us for an engaging discussion for the next hour or so, learning about a number of things. So as they get settled on the way, we'll have a discussion. But in the meantime, why don't we invite you to share with us your thoughts, give us your perspective, as we have a little bit of open line, and let, as they say, the show goes on. Now, what is your perspective? Are you like some who are saying, hey, I'm liking what I'm seeing in Cayman, a lot of hustling and bustling, a lot more people, a lot more opportunities for business growth, a lot of prospective, employment opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities, businesses can expand, new businesses can form. As a fellow shared with me over the weekend, he said, okay, there'll be some growing pains, maybe increased traffic congestion as we try to ram up the infrastructure. It'll be some time before we get there, but could we get there and it'd be good for successive generations? Now, I counted that with what someone else shared who said, well, wait a minute now. Would that be a case of putting, the cart before the horse? We don't have the necessary infrastructure or roads or schools. We don't even have the housing stock to accommodate increased population. Our hospitals, probably in the healthcare system already strained, can be accommodated. Will we have to have more policing for public safety and security? Now, the first fellow said, well, as you get more people and they're competing for the resources, if one of the resources is available land, whether to buy or to sell or to rent, or whether it's the whole issue that you're looking to make a buck, getting while the market is hot, this would be the time. But on the other side, as other fellow shared, well, what if you are the one buying? Can you compete with the increased prices? People who are pushing into the marketplace may have more resources, maybe better position financially. Now, he gave us an example. We saw in 2017 the unfortunate devastation across parts of the Caribbean. People, as they got their insurance payouts, they have decided to come to Cayman because we were up and running. The businesses that had offices there also had offices here. There could be a transition of their employees as they come here, and they come fresh with lots of cash in hand, bidding up the prices of land and homes and the like. whether to purchase or to rent. Now, good for those who are selling, perhaps bad for those who are trying to buy and having to compete with that added, sort of financial resource that are so readily available to those new entrants to the marketplace. How do you balance that? And what will that mean for others down the road? Now, maybe not questions that concern many of us. Maybe it is. It's concerning to some or should be to more. But your thoughts. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. And as a lady was sharing with us on Friday and over the weekend, she relayed the whole notion that perhaps we don't, as a public, not just a voting public, but primarily, as the electorate, as those who will go to the polls and duly, legitimately elect the people who are going to represent the country. Now, even though we have 19 separate little districts and the like, we still collectively are participating in this, democratic process of elections. Do we see that we hold and wield significant power, not just on election day, but definitely on that day, but even mobilizing and getting others involved in the process and potentially even encouraging some to be part, of that list of potential candidates. And she was sharing that as a populace, we need to be more informed and not let just those who have access to financial, means to influence the agenda, whether we call on special interest, not just let those who may control through some format the media and then, of course, the message, and may even pull the strings on the messenger. Now, she gave us a case in point. It would seem that for some in this country, we've allowed, as an example she gave, the Central Planning Authority to make a decision, and then we find out about it sometime after the fact. Now, increasing over time, at least we're seeing that the minutes, again, after the fact of what the Planning Authority has decided. But she said, as an example, should the CPA, like any other statutory authority, should we as a people be able to know beforehand what is going to be on the agenda? Should it be that just as the people who are going to make an application for approval for something have to get that information in, should the Planning Authority and the Planning Department be required, like there is in many other civilized, developed democracies, that information is, if nothing else, uploaded somewhere beforehand, so that you know beforehand what the Planning Department's agenda for the Central Planning Authority is, the CPA's meeting on that day. What is it that they're going to be considering? What potentially could be those decisions? Maybe it is, as we saw recently, the proposed 10-story hotel that the surrounding neighbours decided, weren't quite in keeping with the neighbourhood. Perhaps, as they have alleged, the requisite notifications weren't, sent, and it weren't sent properly, and the like. But maybe it isn't something like that. Maybe it's something even worse. Maybe it isn't something that is as significant. But nonetheless, should you know about it, if it's a decision that's going to be made by some competent authority, should you know beforehand that is going to be considered and not find it after the fact? Some of you would say, surely that's the case. That's how it's done in civilized, developed places. It must be here. Some of you would probably think, why should you know? It doesn't concern you. You don't need to know. Which side of the equation do you fall? And what do you think is the way it should be? Now, those are decisions that some must wrestle with. Those are things that some mistakenly assume that, it's obviously this way, when in fact it isn't. It may be that way, as the lady shared with me over the weekend, in other parts of the world, because that's how it should be. Why is it that it's not here? Now, over the years, the Office of the Auditor General has weighed in on a number of things, and perhaps we're not sufficiently in tune with what's coming there. We don't pay attention to the reports, or we hear when some people, maybe the parliamentarians, make a comment through the Public Accounts Committee, for instance. We may see it as posturing and political pandering and the like, but is it sufficiently timely? Do we give the credence it deserves? And equally important, are we willing to take on board those things so that future decisions are being made, and not only in a more informed way, but inclusive of the populace's view and perspective, because it's affecting us all. Now, you tell me what's on your mind, 949-8037, or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. As we mentioned, we're going to have the good company of our friends from the Department of Children and Family Services in for about an hour or so. We'll be talking about a number of things as they continue to share with us the good work that they're doing over at DCFS. We get through over the ensuing months on a regular basis a chance to hear directly from them. So we're expecting a good complement of their staff and colleagues to join us. But in the meantime, there is some open line and you can share your thoughts. Now, one other quick thought that was relayed to us, and it is perhaps going to be one of those things that there'll be some of us who will be in a better position after the fact to make a comment on, positive or negative, one that may help to inform future or similar projects. But some of you have said, well, how is the public funds being used to support or to complement? How is the cost of, say, policing and security being weighed in relative to the potential benefits? And many are excitedly looking forward to the music festival coming up on Thursday and going through the weekend. May I appreciate that the RCIPS has already started to warn and advise the public that there are going to be some issues with traffic, and there may be for some of you or some of us a bit of an inconvenience moving to and fro. But if the safety of the festival goers is something that we ensure continues, then perhaps the inconvenience would be worth it. Now, the lessons that we make sort of be able to take away from this might help us for future events. Let's go to our phones though and join some callers. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Or you can always WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us as we welcome your not just continued contributions privately. I do respect why some of you choose to voice your views the way you do, but equally and perhaps with great respect, more importantly, in a public vein, because it gives the wider public that chance to hear something that they themselves may have been thinking, but perhaps for whatever reason didn't feel sufficiently motivated nor courageous enough to share it. It gives a case in point. Someone shared with me sometime back, not that long ago, that there was a caller who had called in and was talking about a particular issue, and she was very much in favor of all that the callers shared, but wasn't quite sure how to say it, and wasn't quite sure if she said it, it would be perhaps interpreted and understood in the vein that she wanted it, so she was a bit reluctant. And then more importantly, what if it offended some people? What if it caused some people to think, not too kindly? But the issue is that if we don't share our views publicly and are able to be encouraged and sufficiently, grounded that we know that our democracy provides that avenue, then one day it'll be gone and we'll be that much worse off. But when we come back, please rejoin us as we get a chance to share with you with the Department of Children and Family Services. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
I love you.
Get your Valentine's roses from Rosie's Roses and receive 10% off fresh flowers ordered by February 13th and be entered to win a $100 gift certificate for Mother's Day bouquets. Order online at rosiesroses.ky. Call 922-5273 or visit Rosie's Roses, Rankin Plaza, Eastern Avenue.
Thinking of doing more to show your sweetheart you really care?
Explore new roads together with the 2019 RAV4, Vamps Motors' #1 selling SUV. Save $2,000 off all 2019 RAV4s loaded with features you both will fall in love with, like maximum comfort and cargo space inside, eco mode for low fuel consumption, an audio system with USB and Bluetooth connectivity, vehicle stability and traction control to help you navigate wet roads, and advanced safety features to keep you and your loved ones safe. Do more for your sweetheart and save $2,000 now on the all-new 2019 RAV4 from Vamp Motors, Walkers Road.
At Flow, we know that 4 are better than 1. Introducing Flow Quad Play. Packed with the fastest, most reliable broadband, the power and control of Flow Evo TV, Cayman's best mobile experience, and tons of home phone minutes, all in one convenient package from only $199 a month. With 4 plans to choose from, you're sure to find one that fits your needs. It's value, ease, and convenience all on one bill with Cayman's #1 network. Find out why 4 are better than 1 with Flow Quad Play at discoverflow.ky. Terms and conditions apply.
Sports fans, tune in to Radio Cayman's Sports Extra Show.
Hi, I'm Bruce Lee Colson.
Sports Extra.
This and every Tuesday night, right here on Radio Cayman, 89.9 and 93.9, Cayman Brack and Little Cayman.
Sports Extra, from 7 to 8 p.m., right here on Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. Sports Extra.
Proudly brought to you by King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us in our studio as we continue our partnership with our good friends over at the Department of Children and Family Services. Honored to welcome the new director. Perhaps formal and official, maybe the first time in that role here on Talk Today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she's, although she's been a staple with us, so we're so glad over the decade or so that we've had an opportunity together with our colleagues. Good chance to speak to Miss Paulina Mendoza Williams. I was going to get that hyphen in there. You're lucky I didn't say something else. But I won't, not today. And of course she's brought along her other colleagues. And perhaps before we introduce them and with them, perhaps Ms. Paulina, good afternoon. Happy New Year to you and your team. May it be a safe, successful, prosperous, wonderful, blessed year.
Good afternoon, Dwayne, and thank you for allowing the Department of Children and Family Services to be a part of Talk Today. This afternoon, I've brought along our senior managers with us who will be speaking specifically to their area of specialization. But just want to say that the department is working steadfastly in ensuring that we deliver the services to our community in a very customer-centered approach and making sure that we're addressing those issues that we face on a daily basis, but more so establishing a more preventative approach in dealing with the social issues that are presented in our way. 2019 has started off with a bang. We have sat down as a staff grouping to look at our strengths, our weaknesses, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well, and developing a schedule as to how do we address those to move forward, both as a staff grouping, but also those services, more importantly, that we cater to our clients in the community. So at this time, I'll just allow the ladies to introduce themselves and speak to the areas that they are in charge of. Before I do that, just want to, because we get started and the conversation keeps rolling, but also to just say thank you to our hardworking staff at the department in all of the programs. Persons oftentimes think social workers and the other team members of the department, who are behind the scenes doing all of the work on the ground, they don't get much of a recognition, but want to say from a management level that we certainly appreciate and thank them for the dedication in dealing with some of the more troubling issues that the Cayman Islands community faces. And most persons probably will never encounter or know of some of the issues that we deal with, but on a daily basis, we take it one day at a time, and we want to thank our staff for that.
Indeed, yes, as we look forward to learning and sharing and partnering with you, whether we start off with Ms. Leonora, Mr. Leonora, or Ms. Nicole. I leave it to who wishes to go. Nicole, you've been nominated. Your prize today is
to go on first. That's
yes,
fine.
Mom. There you go.
Yes. So my team, we're responsible for foster care, adoption, and aftercare. Mm-hmm. Foster care is about caring for children who cannot remain in their homes with their families. We also are in charge of the NCVO in terms of monitoring placements there. Also, Francis Barton Children's Home, including the boys' wing. We also do inspection of the NCVO and also all the foster homes. In addition to that, as foster care, and we always need foster parents, so if anybody's interested, please give us a call. We do adoption. So adoption is a service that's provided to everybody on island. Yes, there's a certain criteria, so if you want more information, you can also call us for that. We do international adoptions and local adoptions. Lately, we've been having more persons interested in services, home study reports and whatnot from international agencies. As we are caring for the children in foster care, we also need to care for them when they leave care. So that's the aftercare program. Through that program, we hope to continue to support our children through financial services, but also life skills and just helping them to transition from children to adults.
And at some point, if we could perhaps ask a question too about adoption, in the case of, a marriage, adopting the children of the new spouse and the like.
Step-parent adoptions. We have quite a number of those.
Okay, so we'll ask about that. But do we start next with Ms. Leonora or Ms. Tiffany? Let's flip a coin. Ms. Leonora, it's yours. So, Ms. Leonora Winter Young.
Yes, sir. Well, I manage a family services team. Very interesting work. We do a lot of work. Our work is mainly generated through the courts.
Okay.
So we provide reports to the family proceedings unit, and we do attend court. So we may be in grand court or summary court. But we are taking care of the cases where parents have separated, divorced, not getting along, and the children are caught in the middle. The court usually asks us to do those investigations and to try to sift the pieces so that they can decide what is to be done.
And maybe at some point, whether it's today or through the discussion, so that the public gets an understanding how this process unfolds. If you're not privy to it, then you may not. But maybe we'll see.
And we get a lot from the maintenance court. Means assessment, contact, because you might find a man who is paying his money and the woman is saying, you're not seeing a child. And there are times when the child may be with dad and mom would like to have contact. So we do those pieces of investigations.
Okay. Not a challenge as it is. Stephanie?
Hi, good afternoon. Well, I'm the manager over at the MASH unit. It's a newly formed unit. We've been there for about a year plus. And we're in charge of all child protection matters. So we identify and investigate all allegations of child abuse, which includes neglect, physical, sexual, emotional. We have 2 social workers and 2 police officers from the Family Support Unit at the MASH desk. They process all the referrals that come through the MASH, and then those are allocated out to our child protection officers, and we have currently 5 child protection officers in the MASH. So that's primarily our role and responsibility. We're the first point of contact with the referral system.
Okay. Hopefully as a public we start to get familiar and understand. But good afternoon, Miss Midla, how are you?
I'm very good. Good to see you again.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You enjoying yourself today?
Yes.
I'm so sorry you have to be here with me. Just kidding.
No, but it's good to be with you today.
Well, thank you so much, and together with your colleagues, for joining with us, and hopefully we get a discussion that engages the public, and hopefully appreciates more and more what DCFS and all of the different arms. I don't want to call it tentacles, but
all the different units.
Units. That's a good word. Because there's so much teams.
Yes.
I just need to have a good word. But to you, Miss Christine.
Okay, I manage the youth justice team. We're now. Let me start with that. Presently, what we do, we work with the adolescent population, and so we're looking at youngsters who present what we call at-risk behaviors, or who find themselves before the youth court. So our team will assist the court with doing investigations and providing reports to the court. We also give the service of having one of our team members. Every Friday we have court. There's somebody there as a liaison to give support to the court. What I find exciting for me this year, and certainly for the team, is that now we're looking at putting together a new program we're calling Youth Diversion. And this has been going on in other more first world countries, so we're catching up with that. What the Youth Diversion program aims to do is, as the word suggests, is to divert our adolescent from getting to the point of actually becoming involved with the criminal system, with the youth justice system. So for those who are at risk, we have programs that we're looking to be working with them, working with other stakeholders in the community to see how best we can create more positive opportunities for them so they are making better choices. Ultimately, there'll be those who will end up before the youth court, and we're hoping that with the program, that's the aim really, that they will not reoffend. So we're reducing the amount of youngsters who end up before the court system, so that is an exciting piece of work we're doing presently.
Yeah, prevention is bad,
Yes.
With respect, if I may ask, when we talk about at-risk youth and at-risk behavior, how do we evaluate that? And so the criteria we use and
usually, I would say most of those referrals that we get would come from the education department, from the schools.
So truancy and
truancy, because when you get a presenting problem, usually when you investigate, you find there are other more deeper issues that we need to work at from the family system coming up. So, we mainly get, and from the community too, because we have the community development workers who I also supervise, and they are eyes and ears in the community, so they will make referrals to us as well.
Okay. Well, when we come back, perhaps through the director, maybe continue the discussion. We'll bring in Ms. Cassandra, and we'll hopefully again get more and more the populace considering the importance of social work and what this does for the community and its health and strength and the like. We invite you to stay tuned. Rejoin us after the break.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Get your car washed with Diamond Auto Care. $20 car wash special. $30 for SUVs, interior and exterior. Call 928-7336. Diamond Auto Care will leave your car with a sparkle and shine. Only $20. Call 928-7336.
I love you.
Get your Valentine's roses from Rosie's Roses and receive 10% off fresh flowers ordered by February 13th and be entered to win a $100 gift certificate for Mother's Day bouquets. Order online at rosiesroses.ky. Call 922-5273 or visit Rosie's Roses, Rankin Plaza, Eastern Avenue.
Hi, I'm Dawn McLean Brady, President of the Cayman Islands Small Business Association, better known as CISPA. Small businesses drive Cayman's economy. As small business owners, we depend on government to create an environment where we, as entrepreneurs, can do what we do best, and that's to provide products and services that are valuable to our customers and, in turn, employ others. The cruise piers and cargo ports provide these opportunities. Encourage our government to build a port and let the Caymanian entrepreneurial spirit shine. Support the port, support our tourism.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us, and it truly is an honor to be able to partner with the Department of Children and Family Services. And in the studio, the director, together with all our senior managers, will go through and will share. And as we continue the discussion, giving us an insight and a little more information on the respective units. Right? Teams, yeah. Teams is good, you know. I know that Ms. Lenore, you wanted to just share and sometimes the breaks gives us, but as Ms. Christine was sharing.
Christine spoke about the youth diversion and how we get our cases. But if we look back, if our children turn up at 15 as offenders, if you check, they may very well have been problems in primary school and even in preschool.
From early as that?
From as early as that. Wow. So when we were out in the districts, it had its plus and minuses. Right. But when we were out there, for instance, we were in the Bodden Town district area, we made sure that there was a social worker as the liaison with every primary school. The high school wasn't there at the time. And we wanted to make sure that we caught the problem from that level and not when the child gets to high school. Because when you check, inherently there is usually a problem.
Yeah, and I appreciate you highlighting now because I wanted to ask about that risk, but Madam Director?
As well, just to add that, not only in terms of behavioral concerns, so identifying the behavioral concern whilst they're at school or in the community, the other factors to also keep in mind is children who experience trauma also display certain at-risk behaviors. So then again, you're also looking at those children who have been abused and the level of trauma and what that does in terms of how they then display dealing with the level of trauma. So it's quite cyclic. It's also in terms of ensuring that we're capturing a holistic picture of what has happened in this child's life to place them in a situation where they're now coming through the youth justice system.
Okay. And as we welcome former Ms. Cassandra, good afternoon to you, Mom.
Good afternoon, Sterling. Good afternoon to the listeners out there. I am here, I'm representing the Elderly Services team of Department of Children and Family Services. So my colleagues just spoke to you about their work with children, and we are the only team within DCFS now dealing with a separate population, that is the population of older persons. This team was formed just last year. We have overarching policy and legislation that guided the recommendation for the setup of this team, and that was the Cayman Islands Older Persons Policy of 2016 and the Older Persons Law of 2017, which defines an older person as age 65. We currently have a team of 4 social workers, 1 social work assistant, and 1 resident care supervisor, who is actually a registered nurse, that serve the population of older persons.
So as in the past, before the legislation, 60-ish was, now it's legally formally recognized as 65
and older. It is 65, yes.
Okay. And as I listen to it, we've seen the youth, we've seen the elderly, we've seen different facets of the community, all on the DCFS. Quite a lot.
Quite a lot. Also to add, unfortunately, we're not able to dial in Kim and Brack, but we also have an office in Kim and Brack, as well as a residential facility in the Brack as well, looking after our elderly persons there. The Kim and Brack office, we have one social work manager, Ms. Carrie Parchman, along with a social worker, Ms. Bouvier Ferguson, and we also have our community development officer, Ms. Anna Rose Scott. We have Nurse Klein, who is the resident care supervisor for KCC in the Brack, the equivalent to our homes here in Grand Cayman. So they do quite a lot with a small team over in Kim and Brack. Whilst in Grand Cayman, you've heard from the various teams that we have taken a more specialized approach in our service delivery. But in Kim and Brack, because of the uniqueness of the size of the population and the needs, they still practice what we call a generic approach to social work. So they deal with all of the issues that are around this table, where we have managers assigned to the various teams. Following on to what Ms. Christine spoke about, we also have our community development unit, which she oversees, and I think a lot of people are familiar with our community development officers. We have one in East End, Ms. Delmira Bodden. We have Flavia Gardner, who is for Northside and also assistant for Bodden Town. We have Dorlin Welcome, who is Georgetown. Banda Powery, who is for West Bay. And then I said Ms. Anna Rose in the Brack. Just to say that they are also a small team, with a lot on their plate when you think of districts, yes, but we have even broken down further when we talk about electoral districts now and the various community pockets and the different needs in the different electoral pockets. You have to consider that. And of course, like Bodden Town is the fastest growing district. Ensuring that we have the resources to be able to address the needs of the community, doing a needs analysis, understanding what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what programs do we need to implement, how do they complement the teams around the table, as Ms. Christine spoke about in terms of our youth and those who are at risk, being the eyes and the ears on the ground, but also understanding that community development is about empowering communities, advocating, networking, to build community capacity. So they do a lot of work on that. And Cassandra spoke about adult special needs. As I said, we have our team in Grand Cayman and Kim and Brack. We have currently 3 facilities in Grand Cayman. We're looking forward to bringing our Northward property online in December. And whilst I talk about the Northward property, we're looking for persons who want to give back to the community. Lots of things happening in terms of refurbishment, needing items to make the house a home for our children, our disabled children who require care and protection in that facility. So quite a lot. We're also responsible for disaster management, and I know come May, June, we're back here talking about disaster management and preparedness for hurricane season, but that also falls under the department in terms of shelter warden training and when we do activate for a disaster for shelter, the management of shelters. So yes, we are very busy.
And just, not something I would normally do on a show, but thinking out loud as I was preparing for our discussion, understanding, I think, only just a semblance of what you do to different units, and somewhat trying to be a little bit jovial about it, using the words, but to get people to understand that what you're doing in the different areas, it's all encompassing. Respectfully, Ms. Paulina, you mentioned the 19 sort of electoral districts. We're traditionally familiar with the 6 population districts, maybe for want of a better word. Those themselves were broken down into different areas within areas. Now we have the electoral part to consider. Who knows how that would affect public policy? It's we dance, but it's not just a salsa.
Absolutely not.
From that perspective, if I could maybe ask Ms. Nicole, perhaps, since you're close to me, under your ambit with the foster care and adoption, we're seeing the community, not just the population growing, we're seeing families splinter. We're seeing words that are probably becoming almost commonplace now, blended families and remarriages, things that maybe 30, 40 years ago were uncommon. Now it's, what's the comedian said? The person you marry now is the person you decide in 5 years' time, do I want to be sharing my kids with? These are things that are considerations. Yep.
What we're seeing a lot of in adoption is more step-parent adoptions, meaning that you're having people couples remarry, and then they're adopting the children of their spouse. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would say that more than half of the adoptions we had last year were all step-parents.
Okay. If it's okay, and forgive us if we ask a question that is hopefully not impertinent, but two individuals get married, and one has children that it doesn't, and so they say, listen, we want to adopt this child. A couple of questions first off. Timeline, do they have to be married for a period of time, or can they say, listen, as soon as they eat vows and the marriage thing, how does that work?
It needs to be a little bit longer than that. One of the things that adoption law talks about is making sure that people are married no less than 3 years.
So there's a timeline?
Yes, and they need to be living together for those 3 years too.
Okay. Never assume.
Exactly.
So it's a 3-year limit before one can legally adopt the other child. Okay.
The children have to be younger than 18 years old.
Okay.
An adoption order cannot be made once the child has reached the age of 18.
Okay. And not to confuse it, but if those two individuals, for whatever reason, wish to adopt somebody else, child, do they have to be married for a certain time, or can they?
The criteria is the same.
So they have to be married 3 years, irrespective.
If you're going to adopt as a couple, you need to be married for 3 years.
Okay. And in the process, they go through the courts, they get lawyers, there's a cost. Talk to us about that.
The cost for adoption in the Cayman Islands is extremely minimal. It is $75.
Okay.
Right, in a lot of jurisdictions, it's several thousands and more. So that's regardless if you have a child in your home that you're adopting, so if you're doing a step-parent adoption, or if you are adopting someone that's essentially a stranger to you, a child that's been in care, or extended family member, which we also find grandparents adopting.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I'm asking is that there are so many wonderful people in our community who want to extend that, and perhaps if they have questions, maybe just reach out to the department. What would be the best way for them to proceed out? Whether they're married, they want to adopt the child, the new spouse, or whether they want to adopt someone in foster care.
It's important to note that you don't have to be married to adopt. Okay. So you can be a single person adopting also. Right. The best way to find us, our email is dcfsadoptions@gov.ky, or our regular email is just dcfs@gov.ky. Phone number is 949-0290.
All right. Foster care and adoption. If you've never taken somebody in for a time, what is it? I think one of your staff members said some years ago, there's no greater love than loving someone else's child as your own. Wow.
And that's what our foster parents do. They're very valuable to us in that they are opening their hearts, they're opening their families, their entire lives to other children. Children that's not related to them most of the time, and children they knew nothing about before we called and said, hey, do you have time to care for this child?
Okay. With that, Madam Director, if I may speak to Ms. Christine about at-risk. I say this again, you chastise me, Mom, I give you permission. My mother would say, but she can do that. Only because this is my perspective. When I hear the word at risk, I kind of stand back, because my perspective is that we're all at risk, children in particular. When it comes to kill, steal, and destroy, so all children are at risk. Some are probably more so than others. That is the reason why I'm asking. Assessing the at-risk child, and we're talking, as Ms. Lenore referenced earlier, from the early days when that child is in school. So assessing and looking at and considering and potential behaviours. The schools play a significant role in evaluating, would that be the word? Identifying, perhaps?
Well, when you think about it, the children spend most of the day in school. So they're interacting with their peers and the teachers, who have the opportunity to observe the behaviors that they exhibit. Yes, and within society, certainly within school, there are certain values, expectations, behavior. So if we see the child is presenting some behaviors that seem a little bit odd, a little bit out, excessive talking, out of seat behavior, being aggressive, being very quiet, being withdrawn, those sort of behaviors, because it is those things would suggest that maybe something else is going on.
Okay. And this is where the community starts to recognize that we are our brother's keeper. When we come back from our break, could we also talk more about the MASH unit and some of the, I guess, the things that go on there and how we can be involved in what happens? Certainly want to understand more about our elderly and the like. And you know me, Miss Nicole, I was just wondering, 3 years, why not 30 years, why not 1 year? I was wondering to ask you that, but maybe that's, is that a magical number? Was it just, flip of the coin? Not to be disparaging, not disrespectful, but why 3 years marriage? Why not 7? I just wondering. May not be significant, maybe after a year. Those are little things, and the thinkings of a mind of a man who hosts this talk show. You never know. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Government is looking for a new pension administration system. A request for proposals published online says the Public Service Pension Board is looking for a vendor to provide a, quote, customized pensions administration system that can fundamentally provide the system's functionality and support to deliver all transactional aspects of day-to-day defined contribution and defined benefit administration work. The tender closes on March 7th. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A scientific review of insect numbers suggests that 40% of species are undergoing dramatic rates of decline around the world. The study says that bees, ants, and beetles are disappearing 8 times faster than mammals, birds, or reptiles. But researchers say that some species, such as houseflies and cockroaches, are likely to boom. The general insect decline is being caused by intensive agriculture, pesticides, and climate change. The 2019 Grammys proved to be a great night for female musicians. Dua Lipa, Lady Gaga, and Cardi B were among the winners of the 2019 Grammy Awards. Women dominated this year's ceremony, which celebrated some milestones for female performers and showcased female artists. And Fox News host Pete Hegseth has confessed on air that he has not washed his hands for 10 years because germs are not a real thing. Speaking on Fox and Friends, Hegseth said the infectious microorganisms did not exist because they could not be seen with the naked eye. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go.
Puritan, now using the most popular and eco-friendly cleaning solvents. Take advantage of our ongoing discounts on all men and women's apparel. Ask about other discounts available in store. 3 convenient locations to serve you: Savannah Countryside, Elgin Avenue, Georgetown, Eastern Avenue, Georgetown. Drive-through, rain or shine. Free pickup and delivery available. Call Puritan Cleaners at 949-7104. You feel good when you look good.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. Again, a special thanks to the Department of Children and Family Services, the Director, Ms. Paulinda Mendoza-Williams, together with her managers. I just go around the table. Ms. Cassandra Farron. We have the good company, Ms. Nicole Carter, Ms. Leonora Winter-Young, Ms. Tiffany Miles, and Ms. Christine Miller. And, of course, George. Not just kidding. He's not ready. That was Monday's show for Mental Health Matters. We'll get George in the discussion later. No, I love life. I know some people think, well, you can't have a care in the world or no trouble. But if you
have to love life. Mm-hmm. If not, what's the point?
I mean, if you don't love yourself, who can love you?
Exactly. Social work 101.
Yeah.
If we don't take care of our issues, how do we take care of our clients' issues?
Right. Thank you for picking up. On cue. See the and you thought, see how smart she is? But I say that because I start to understand, and I genuinely looking at this whole thing. And it's challenging the work that you do. I don't use the word abuse, but as a community, the things we throw at people. And sometimes it's out of frustration. Sometimes it's genuine, but we've had this thing. But as more of us understand how it works and how it affects all of us, then maybe we'll play more. But then it maybe comes down to an ethos that in our community we don't understand the different silos. There's just too many independents. Hopefully this will change that perspective.
We are aiming, as I said earlier, to be more preventative. It's always been more or less very reactive. We look at things because they've happened and not looking at how do we prevent them. I shared with someone some time ago that I have a utopic approach to social work, particularly child abuse, and that someday we will not be reporting on referrals or the number of children who have been abused in our community. And I think if I don't think that way, or if we don't think that way as social workers, it would make our job very daunting every day coming into work to say, another case of abuse. But how do we prevent it? How do we prevent it not only as an organization, but how do we prevent it as a society? You spoke about the proverb, the African proverb that we so commonly use, it takes a village to raise a child. But there's also another proverb that speaks to, if a child doesn't feel the warmth of the village, what does the child do? Burn down the village. Mm-hmm. So if we don't take care of our children now, we're going to be the ones to suffer the consequences. And what future do we have for our children? What future do we have for our country? One of the things that we do is definitely protecting our children, but we also want to know that we transform lives, and through that we're securing our future. So, it is ensuring that continuum of care takes place. Again, not only the Department of Children and Family Services, nor our Ministry of Community Affairs, who I must say, again, thanks to the Chief Officer, Deputy Chief Officer, and the team at the Ministry, who've really been supportive in terms of sitting with the department and hearing from us what our goals are, what our objectives are, and ensuring that there is that mesh between ministry and department. Sometimes we know that those things kind of get lost in the piece. The ministry is up here, the department is down there, but I think the conversations that we've been having are quite productive, and we're just looking forward to what the future holds for, it's more so for our community. I'd just let Tiffany share in terms of some of the stats that we captured for last year when it comes to referrals that came in on child abuse.
Okay. Ms. Tiffany?
Mm-hmm. So for last year, January 1st to 31st of December 2018, the types of abuse, like physical, we had 88 cases come through. Sexual was 71. Neglect was 71. Emotional was 108. And that was a total of 411 for the year. The referrals that came through for the males were 192. And that encompasses all of the abuse, and female was 219.
No, I was going to ask about reporting and the like, and there are those who would say, well, since the new legislation, we've seen an increase in reporting, and there are those who say, well, we shouldn't report because then it'll bring a certain level of notoriety and the like. Ms. Paulino, you have a perspective on
The children's law speaks to mandatory reporting, and it does highlight the professionals that are mandated to report. But I will also add, whilst the law speaks to the professionals highlighted, again, child protection, child abuse prevention is a community initiative. And if I see my next door neighbor or someone in the community ill-treating a child, I should make it my duty either to report or sometimes to do what we used to do back then when I was misbehaving or doing things I shouldn't be doing next door with my friends. Then I was chastised there, and my parents knew. It's, again, having that global approach, that village approach to caring for each other, caring for our children. So in regards to the mandatory reporting, it's not whether or not I want to report. It is under the law, and there is a penalty for professionals who are mandated to report child abuse. But also to add to that, in that you're not expected to prove the abuse. The law says suspicion or alleged. It is for MASH and the professionals, police, social workers, etc., to do that leg of work in terms of assessing and investigations.
If I may ask, just generally speaking, and this is something that I've sort of been thinking and discussing with different sort of professions, so the sociologists, the political scientists, to the like. In this society specifically, we have all sorts of ages of consent. Age of majority is 18. You can legally drink and vote at 18. You can drive at 17. You can sexual consent literally
16.
Different little things, right? And then when we look at young people, depending on the program, I think even the youth. It has a range up, was it 25 or something? So there is this notion of an age. My question, respectfully, and not necessarily to put anybody on the spot, when we think of young people and we look at the MASH unit, it's that person under the age of majority, so that less than 18. But then you may have another person who is, for one or another, is dependent on the parent. Maybe they're still in school, maybe they haven't quite established their independence yet. But they're an adult. Is that person in, no man's land in a sense?
So in terms of child protection,
the
law says 18 and
yes.
Or under 18.
Under
18 and under,
So a child is...
Yeah. So at age 18, that person is...
now considered a young adult.
Yeah. And theoretically, that person could be in sixth form, for argument's sake, or at UCCI.
Right.
And now is 18.
But for the youth... It's 17.
It's 17.
Yeah.
Right. So once you get to be 17 and you commit an offence, you're going to be going into the summary court.
Right. So your age of culpability.
It's not the youth court anymore.
So as you rightfully observed, the various ages, the conflict in that, there needs to be some level of consistency, because you did mention the age of consent for a young person, a child, to give consent to sex is 16. Really and truly, if you can't vote and if you can't marry without your parents' permission,
but yet,
how do you, where is the consistency with that? And then you create a whole other issue in terms of, again, we see, our young children, 16 years old, between that funny catchment, 16 to 17, 18, where persons are sexually exploiting them. That's child sexual exploitation. So you have that area, whereas they're able to give consent, but are they given informed consent? Are they capable of making such decisions where people are now taking an advantage of them? No. So,
and the reason why I asked that is that I think thankfully there are many of us who are, maybe because we're justice of the peace and we're before the youth court, maybe we're just involved with some, whatever the thing is, we are cognizant that these are things that are happening, not just globally, but right here in our communities. Mm-hmm. What are we doing as part of public policy? What are we doing as part of public programming and the like? It's not a political discussion from a platform. It's just the reality of what's before us, and you all probably know it better than most. So from the MASH unit's perspective, as you wish to share, Ms. Tiffany, because we're going to have a good discussion going forward, next year on this date. That's good. The MASH unit, its role, its function, do we access it? As Ms. Paulina said, you have to suspect. You don't have to prove to make a report.
Well, the majority of our referrals come through of course, from the schools, and the police, the community, the police officers. We do have quite a number of persons who will report with the wish to remain anonymous, and for various reasons, of course. So we do take all referrals. They call through or email through to the MASH desk, and our email is mash@gov.ky. So once a referral is made or just a concern is stated, they can send that through to the MASH email, or contact the department at the same number, 949-0290. And the MASH desk then assess the referrals, do the risk assessment, and make necessary contacts to, various partners.
This may be a known, but just in case there isn't to everybody, can a person, not the professional who's mandated by law, so the doctor, the teacher, for instance, that neighbor who is seen but not sure, don't want to get too involved, can a report be made anonymously, like the
Yes.
tips hotline for thing, or okay?
Yes, definitely.
All right. So if you see your neighbor and it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, you're concerned,
Yes.
be on the safe side and go ahead anonymously.
We have quite a number of anonymous referrals, that's good.
I think the key thing is providing some relevant information, like if you have definitely the child's name or a location. Oftentimes, if we get a child's name and a district, we're kind of able to narrow it down because of school, probably,
right.
To some extent. But definitely having some very general, basic information.
So and the only reason I was thinking that sometimes maybe we don't like to mind people's business somehow, for whatever reason. But let's say that the teacher is one of those individuals who are by law mandated. But let's say a teacher decides, I don't necessarily, because of whatever reason. Can those people who are by law required to mandatory report, can they make anonymous reports as well?
They would be making that report. How?
Yeah.
Because you're mandated. The law says that you're mandated. And education services, they do have their operational policy in terms of the mechanisms in place to refer. As Tiffany said, we work closely with the schools, and we have a really good partnership with the school counselors, also in terms of their child protection officers. So they know how to address that. One of the things that I know that is a constant concern, particularly with professionals and some of the teachers, the discussion is, they don't want to be harassed by, if it's a parent or whatever. The reality is the law is there to protect you. That's what you're supposed to do. Which is it? Do you want a child to go home into an abusive situation, or do you want to just turn a blind eye and not do anything about it? Again, that's where we have the conversation of it definitely takes a village to raise a child, and child safeguarding is everybody's responsibility.
And again, my reading of it, the law, if you make a report, there's no liability on your part.
Right.
If you legitimately, but if you don't make
it, if you legitimately have a concern, or you just feel that sometimes that gut feeling that you get, you're not too sure, but something is happening, and we're not asking you to say yes or no. You feel that something is happening, you heard, or you make the referral. Leave the experts to determine.
Okay. Now, and the reason why I asked that, I use the teachers because I would venture to say that they're going to be the first to say, listen, here's an issue. But let's say the parent who is dropping children off and they see little Johnny coming in, little Susie every day looking like something. The parent should anonymously, and can make that report just to be safe.
Yes.
Without any, all right. Be your brother's keeper. Be that part of that village. Once a report, sorry, Ms.
Where we have had a problem is some persons who are on work permits. And they're concerned if they report and the person finds out, and then their work permit is going to be pulled. Those, especially if they are in, like domestic helpers, or maybe working at a preschool, and they may see something. And my take on that is, where is your conscience leading you? Would you feel better to know that you have sat down knowing that something was happening and not report it?
But respectful, I think some, and I hear what you're saying, but some people genuinely in this case, may want to make a report, but just don't know how to. This is not the small community that it once was. It's the same size, maybe because of the dredging is a bit bigger, but it's a lot more people, a lot more hectic.
I think the information is getting out there.
Right.
Because we have gone into preschools, we have been in the schools, we have been in churches. We may still need to do some more, but to a large extent it is there.
Okay.
And again, this is a start in terms of educating the public on the services of the department. But we do have a schedule to come back on a monthly basis, and we'll talk some more in depth about child protection, child safeguarding in the Cayman Islands, where Tiffany will bring her colleagues as well who are on the team to speak about that. And I know there've been ongoing discussions as a MASH unit, which encompasses the police, but also it's a message that's ongoing. It's going to be something, again, if we are to fight this battle, it takes everybody to be a part of it. But talking about abuse also, it's not only limited to our children. And Cassandra's team, the social workers on what we refer to in the field of social work, it's a specialized area, geriatric social workers, and that's what they are. They also address those issues of elderly abuse, and that's something that we see that's also very rampant, believe it or not, in the Cayman community, where we prided ourselves on caring for our older persons. That is something that seems to be diminishing daily. Yeah. And hopefully with our elderly services team and public education and sharing information, that we can also eradicate that social issue.
Well, when you come back from the break, Ms. Cassandra, I'll ask you to pick up on that. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
The 15th annual Cayman Economic Outlook returns on February 28th for another year of educating, informing, and stimulating the local community, bringing together industry thought leaders and business professionals to explore their theme, Dynamic New World, Braving the Turmoil. Speakers include economist Norina Hertz, University of Oxford professor Ian Golden, digital revolution journalist Andreas Ekstrom, biotechnology futurist Jamie Metzel, and professional surfer Mark Matthews. Tickets are selling fast. Reserve your seat at rfceo.ky.
Get your car washed with Diamond Auto Care. $20 car wash special. $30 for SUVs, interior and exterior. Call 928-7336. Diamond Auto Care will leave your car with a sparkle and shine. Only $20. Call 928-7336.
Save time, don't stand in line. You can apply for or renew your trade and business license online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just visit dci.gov.ky and click on the Trade and Business Online application link. Now, you don't need to stand in line, take time out of your busy schedule, or try to find parking. You can apply for your trade and business license online. Visit dci.gov.ky today and save time for running your business.
Hello, I'm Joseph Woods, the Acting Port Director. Our port facility is the hub of the Cayman Islands commerce and economic activity, handling $658 million in imported goods annually. From groceries to construction materials, all sectors of our economy depend on the port. But it is now 40 years old. Its infrastructure is degrading, and we feel the strain from insufficient space for both cargo and cruise operations. The time is now. A new expanded port facility is needed to allow both cargo and cruise to operate efficiently and to support our island's continued growth and development. Support the port, support our tourism, support Cayman's continued growth and development.
I love you. Get your Valentine's roses from Rosie's Roses and receive 10% off fresh flowers ordered by February 13 and be entered to win a $100 gift certificate for Mother's Day bouquets. Order online at rosiesroses.ky. Call 922-5273 or visit Rosie's Roses, Rankin Plaza, Eastern Avenue.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. And again, thanks for this ongoing partnership with our friends over at DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services. Our director, Ms. Paulina Mendoza Williams, together with our colleagues and managers, Ms. Cassandra Farrow and Ms. Nicole We have Miss Leonora, Miss Tiffany, and Miss Christine. And thanks so much for joining every month. Hopefully we get a little bit more, familiar and find ways that we can partner. But as we go into our next discussion, Ms. Paulina, you lead us. Tell us where we...
Yeah, before we went to break, we were talking about, child abuse. But I was also saying that we also have the issue of our elderly abuse. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we're seeing more and more of in regards to our seniors in the community. And unfortunately, that is not a part of who we are as a Caymanian society. Years ago, it was definitely you looked after your older relatives, your grandparents, your granduncle, aunt. But we seem to be moving away from that. And again, under our elderly services team, hopefully we can bring some more awareness to what our older persons are facing and to be able to find realistic solutions as a department as well as a community on those concerns.
Ms. Cassano?
Sterling, sorry. I think it really is timely that we have the elderly services team providing social work services to the older persons in the community. The global population is aging, and we even see it here. In the last census, we had about near 4,000 older persons who are 65 years and older. And our team now, we do deal with abuse of older persons. We get reports of abuse, neglect. But I think the biggest group of referrals that we get is in relation to care matters. So we have a population that are aging now. As Ms. Paulinda spoke about earlier, it was traditional that you had large families and the older persons had a lot of children who would be able to care for them when they aged. Family structures are now changing. You have older persons there with lesser amounts of children, and then those children are out working and caring for their own households. So the older person is aging on their own. There are medical disabilities that come, and then disabilities that come with age. We are seeing more persons coming to us for residential care, for assistance with financial services, trying to help them be able to age in place, age in their own home. And then with those care matters, we get physical abuse, neglect, verbal abuse, financial abuse. So, there are a lot of abuse matters that we are now putting structures in place to deal with. I spoke earlier about the older persons law. At this time, unlike the children's law, the older persons law does not cover elder abuse. It is something that needs to be amended. It just came about in 2017, so there are still amendments to come from the older persons law to be able to cover the legal issues in regards to elder abuse. There are also some resources that are greatly needed within the services to older persons. We have a service of residential care for older persons. That is, we have 2 facilities for older persons, the East End Sunrise Cottage and the Golden Age Home in West Bay. And within those 2 residential facilities, they have a capacity of 23 persons, which is a small number compared to the population of aging persons in the Cayman Islands. Ms. Paulinda also spoke earlier about Cayman Brac. We have a facility there as well, and the capacity there is 30. So it is something that is a need in the Cayman Islands. Recently, we had a meeting with a private facility who wants to come online and offer residential care services as well. So we're hoping that comes online soon. But we are also working with families for aging in place. And this is something that, again, has been traditional. Not all of the time it is an option now, because like I said, the family members aren't there to be able to care for their older persons, so they actually would need then a caregiver to be there. At times, because of specialized need, you need a caregiver or perhaps a registered nurse to be in a home with an older person. So these are the needs that we are seeing within our community and things that we're also looking to address. Another need is the need of legal services for older persons. What we have been seeing is really a lack of planning. We call it advanced care plans that we're trying to work with our older persons on, looking at things such as, what are their wishes for care, what are their wishes for their assets as they age and no longer have capacity to speak for themselves. And in that case, then the family member has to seek legal guardianship or power of attorney, and we are meeting a lot of families who cannot afford these legal services. Legal guardianship at times is very expensive, and what we're finding now, when they're applying for benefits from their insurance companies, Siemens assistance, or any type of financial assistance to open a bank account, the banks are now requiring that they have legal guardianship, which, as I said, is very costly. So these are things that we're trying to work with families on, to be able to have persons be able to prepare an advanced care plan ahead of the time when they're no longer able to speak for themselves. We also have a facility called the Maple House, and that facility houses young disabled persons. Ms. Paulinda spoke earlier about the Northward facility that we're working on at present, and that facility is going to house children with disabilities. So presently, Maple House we have a section there for the young disabled adults, but we also have some children in there. We're working on that facility to be able to separate those populations. It should be coming online this year. And within our residential homes, our social workers also work. We are the liaisons with the families and the residential homes. We want to have families still engaged with their older persons while they're in the homes. It's not just that they come into the home and then they are no longer a part of the community. We still want them to be connected to the community. We want to have community groups and individuals still come and be able to offer activities to our older persons or disabled adults when they're within those facilities. So community outreach, community programming is also a part of the elderly services team. We are tasked also with not just the reports that come into us, but we must do community outreach. So we must go out if we know of older persons in the community, that we are able to do welfare checks on them and be able to see if there's any need in particular that we can assist them with. We know that a lot of older persons don't come to us or don't like to seek assistance. That's how traditionally Cayman was. A lot of persons are very proud of of their independence and what they can do for themselves. But it is our responsibility as well just to make sure that we can do a welfare check if there's any particular services that we can refer persons to, that we do that. We also want to be able to keep our older person population active. So the community development officers of our department liaise quite a bit with the community groups in each of the communities, and we do monthly programming for older persons that we want to make sure that all levels of older persons come in and join with us. It's not just, we have groups that, we see the same persons all the time and we're happy to see them, but we want to make sure that, that there are other persons out there who see the benefit in some of the programs that we do. Our team is also responsible for Older Persons Month, which is in October of every year. But we have national programs as well. One of them is done near Easter of every year. It's been a program that's been in the department, before my time working with older persons, and it is a spirituality and wellness program, and it's coming up on April the 15th. And this is a program that we work with the Seventh-day Adventists to put on. We bring persons over from Cayman Brac and all around the island really to attend this. And this year we're trying to address some older persons' issues of grief and loss, and then faith in conflicts in life's relationships. And so it's something that we'll be doing more promotion on later to that time. But that in a nutshell is older person, the elderly services unit and services that we have to older persons. And I'm scheduled to come on back in March. So at that time I can bring my team with me, and we can talk a little bit more about, in particular, some of the issues that we're seeing, some of the reports that we're seeing coming to us.
I'm hoping that the listening public that they recognize that the department, you cover the whole gamut of all of the facets of our society, and I can see, if I was wearing a public policy hat, so interesting. Maybe another time, right, Ms. Fulton?
Maybe another time.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. It's from birth to retirement.
Mm-hmm.
That's us. Where we deal with the community, and it's birth to retirement.
I think it's the
well,
when they die, we go in and give the support too, and do the grief counselling and all of that.
That's true.
And we attend a lot of those funerals to support the family.
Yeah, it's.
Paulina spoke about generic social work. That's what is done in Cayman Brac. Just to say that's how we practice over here all those years. It's just now that we are going into teams, and it doesn't mean that anybody from one team could not be jump in on another team, because that's our training. We were trained as generalists in social work, but we're just specializing now with the intent of being more focused on certain groups, so that we can give them that intensive service.
We've got 100,000 people in Grand Cayman, and 1,000 Cayman Brac. So it's we can see the difference, right? I exaggerate slightly.
If I could just say a little about the community development workers, I need to speak a little about them. They're part of my team as well. And Ms. Cassandra was talking about the support that they offer to the elderly team. Every month they have their wellness program, which is a partnership with the churches, and they come together to do various activities, whether it's arts and craft or exercise or discussions or whatever. But the community development workers, they're very valuable to us because they're the eyes and ears in the community. And they are support to all of the teams. So based on our statistics and the trends that we're seeing, we can have discussions with these community development workers and look at planning and putting programs in the district. So we are also attacking the issues at the district level, at the community level. So we're covering all our bases in that regard.
Just to also add as well, there is a level of internal discussion in terms of some restructuring with our community development unit in terms of approaches and what has been traditional workings of community development officers. I think I need to highlight that. I think traditionally a lot of what they were doing has to do with more or less dealing with the elderly population and addressing events more so on the social side, but it's also us redeveloping that team to be able to, again, do the full gamut of services from our children straight up to our elderly in terms of creating a dynamic community development program that encompasses all of the community, not just the older persons. Yeah. So that is an undertaking that we have embarked on in terms of addressing community development. And just to add that for persons who may not know, really and truly community development is a specialized area of social work. I'm sure some of us did at least one course in community development And that looks at areas of, you're looking at the needs analysis, community profiles. So these are some of the things that we have set down as part of our objectives in terms of building capacities for communities and being able to engage in those conversations to develop the programs that are viable, that are meaningful within the communities as well.
All right. Well, certainly looking forward to our continued discussion, and not just to highlight it, but hopefully be able to inform and involve the public more, not only in the programming, but how we can help to formulate the policies and make our people that much better. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Dwayne, for allowing us to come and share. Just before we leave again, just thanks to the senior management team, to these ladies. They put in long hours, hard work, and again, just want to say thank you to each of them. But also, just to clarify a couple of things, one thing that Cassandra spoke about in terms of some of the financial issues that our seniors may be experiencing. Historically, DCFS was the go-to agency in terms of child protection, the whole gamut, including financial assistance. We no longer provide financial assistance to the community. That is our sister agency, Needs Assessment Unit, and again, they're doing a fabulous work in dealing with those issues. But I think that there's a level of confusion at times that people still don't understand. And I think, again, through this series of appearances via whether it be Radio Cayman or any other media, it's for the department to continuously share and educate the public that we no longer address financial assistance needs. We work closely with the Needs Assessment Unit, but that is no longer our remit.
This is really the changing community and the dynamic, as you said, the idea of the generalist social worker, which can be easily practiced on the back because of the size, because of the community. In Grand Cayman, the population, the disparities amongst the different population highlights the need for the specialization. So we'll clarify, no longer social services, we see that transition, but still some must use their old terminology. Thank you all very much.
Thank you too.
Hey, to our listeners, when you come back, I'm going to get Miss Susan to sing a song. She's going to announce the launch of a new campaign. If you want to know what it is, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Honey, what are we doing for Valentine's this year?
Well, according to psychologists, couples that work out together experience increased happiness, increased romance, and stronger emotional bonds in their relationship, as well as greater efficiency and achievements in their fitness goals. So, babes, this Valentine's Day, let's take advantage of Powerhouse Gym's Valentine's Specials.
This Valentine's Day, take advantage of Powerhouse Gym's Valentine's Special. Couple, $375 each. Singles, $400 each, including a free self-defense session. Offer valid from February 8th to the 17th. Call 946-5464. Email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingssportscenter.com.
Kings Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Remember to get the 2 glasses and 2 games for $2 for $40 at Kingpin Bowling.
Healthcare Pharmacy, caring about your health for the past 25 years. Radio Cayman's premier health show.
Alzheimer's and dementia, are they the same disorder?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Is heard on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor, where they care about your health. Transfer and refill your prescription online. Visit healthcarepharmacy.ky or call 947-8900. Healthcare Pharmacy, now with a new and second location in Governor's Square. The new Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor's Square is open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Healthcare Pharmacy, where they care about your health.
Plastic pollution is a global issue. Even our beautiful islands can't escape plastic being found on our beaches and in the ocean. Together, we can change this. We can start by taking the 345 Pledge, which is a personal commitment to make better choices in our everyday lives. I am Kelsey Woodman-Bodden, Miss World Cayman Islands, and in a united effort for Cayman to be more environmentally friendly for the betterment of our future generations, I challenge all residents to take the 345 Pledge, which can be found at plasticfreecayman.com.
a caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our open line segment. If you were here just before the break, thanks to our good friends over at DCFS for sharing with us. We're going to have a continued discussion with them on a monthly basis to understand and learn more and see how we as a people can get more involved and be informed. As we went to the break, I said, Miss Susan's going to sing a song and we're going to announce the launch of a new campaign. Got a couple of people thinking, what? Elections are early? No, not that kind of campaign. It wasn't just only a little bit of fun at your expense, but what is it that you want to know? What is it that you would like to see? And I said to share that there was someone who shared with me. He was saying, we keep taking for granted this country that we live in. We take for granted the notion that the beach is right there, that there are many days, probably with the exception of the last few months of the year, where we have almost 12 hours of sun and 12 hours of night. In the summers, we get a little bit more light. But it's not like some places where the sun might be up until 8 o'clock in the morning, and before 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's gone. So you're lucky if you get 8 hours, and that's not even in the extreme parts of the world. To our beaches and even some of the undeveloped lands, relatively speaking, is still safe. Now, two things that he was sharing. One, not only are we taking that for granted, we're not availing ourselves of opportunities to move along the beaches, freely, but we're also not questioning, not doing things to protect when access to the beach, for instance, is being blocked, hindered and hampered and challenged. But equally, when people, remember, I said it wasn't that long ago, people would be walking along the roads and they could do safely. Nobody would be accosting them. You weren't worried about the safety of the person. Not so much now. We see people out, in restaurants, and thankfully it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. And people come in with weapons of sorts, guns in particular, and rob the place and the patrons. Now, should we be accepting of that? And when it happens, what is the community's response? And then the other thing he shared is that, take for instance, the whole quest for a people's initiative referendum. So there are those who have assembled and decided that they want to have the government of the day host a referendum to give the electorate, the general populace that can vote, an opportunity to say yea or nay in respect to what some have said to date could be the largest single largest financial expenditure by a government to date. Doesn't mean that you're for it, doesn't mean that you're against it. Now, whether it's political posturing, pandering and the like, some have positioned it to say, well, if you signed a petition, that means that you're against the port. Well, that may be in some people's minds, but not a lot of people. But I can tell you one or two who say, they want the petition because they want to sign yes. They are for the port. Now, some of you will share, well, how that question will be worded and the need to maybe amend the legislation that says the wording will be selected by the government could almost bring about a foregone conclusion or cause some to, have to think about how they answer the yes or the no if that's the question that's being posed. But equally important, the idea that, as he shared, the media, whether it's the print media or online, whether it's radio or television or otherwise, sometimes will present it in such a way that instead of being objective and impartial, it comes across as one-sided. They're for the port or they're against the port. Where is the objectivity, the professionalism? Now, as he was sharing, just like we take for granted the fact that we have, still relatively speaking, good quality, clean air that we can go outside and breathe and exercise, good, hours of daylight and the like, beaches that we can go to freely. They're not exclusive beaches, they're not paid beaches. We are being challenged. And as we share that, we're asking you to weigh in. He says, for instance, look at not only the amount of development along the coastline, not just 7 Mile Beach, but other, sort of waterfront properties. How much of it is being developed? How much of not only the views, from the roads to the beaches and to the seas beyond, but the physical access is being, limited. But equally, as they were sharing, what's remaining, how much of it is being commercialized so that when you do go to a beach, you're not only having a challenge to get there if you can, but you don't probably able to use the facilities that are there, simply the sand and the sea. You probably ask to maybe rent, or you're prevented from using what is there as well. Now, are there things that we need to consider? Well, give us your perspective. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, if you want to share a thought with us, do so on our WhatsApp, 925-3261. Or you can even send us your thoughts on our email, talktoday@candw.ky, and give us what you think is your, what is it, a friend said earlier, your 411, your information. Give us your perspective. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. And as we look at a few of the comments that were shared with us, some of you are simply saying that it's really very little, that the public as a whole can do unless and until there is a general election, because the government will do what it is that is intended to do, and whoever in the remaining sort of legislative assembly, whether we term them as opposition or otherwise, may not necessarily be positioned within a significant power to change the direction that the government is going to travel, nor even make any meaningful impact. Now, is that your perspective? One lady, she was sharing with us on Friday, following her show, she said that very small jurisdiction, even a smaller voting base, the number of people who are registered to vote, that in itself, she says, is a very small number. When you look at the high percentage, normally speaking, that comes out, that's encouraging as a percentage, but still, as a number, still relatively small. Then she shared, when you look at the population and the amount of people who are there as elected, members of parliament or whatever you would want to term them, the fact that they can make laws, those individuals, right, are, for the most part, perhaps too many of them for the size of the population. Now, we were asking her about it. She shared, could you then spread out the sort of democratic involvement by having, and since she was somewhat familiar with the notion of the district councils in our constitution, would that mean that we have more sort of electorally involved people? If we would have reduced the 19 to 9 or 10 or 11 or 13 or whatever the number that she thought was a beneficial number, then increase those who are participating in the process through the district councils. Something that she shared is that you have 19 districts as it is now, electoral districts, constituencies, and if each one of them had a district council, so that's 19 district councils, and if each one had 10 as proposed in some, you're almost approaching 200 people, because more than likely if they fill the capacity and they get others involved. Now, is that increased number making it cumbersome, or is it a better sort of representation of the population, and so thereby allowing for greater democracy and participation? Your perspective. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Now, that's something that she shared, and she heard the Honourable Opposition Leader, Honourable Elsa Miller, share with us again on Thursday. She said, in listening to him, she thought it was important that when we look at the boards, at the statutory authorities, that it may be better to, I think this is how she phrased it, take on board his perspective. Instead of their members be sort of solely appointed by the government, and even with some by the opposition, allow it to be a vetting process where you solicit the people who want to serve, and their names come forward, and let it be for the public to either recommend or to somehow put forward views as to why someone should not serve. Now, she thought that it should obviously be that if you have a board that is dealing with an issue of health, that you have people who are somehow knowledgeable about healthcare and the like. But it doesn't have to be all physicians. Not just patient advocates could be involved, but there could be other individuals, because of their community service in other areas, their other skill sets could be invaluable. There will always, she says, going to be a level of political involvement and influence. But, and she used, unfortunately, seems like the Central Planning Authority sometimes gets the brunt of things, but she used that as an example. Now, is it that because of the appointments, the certain statutory authorities seem to be people who are involved with the sector? Again, the CPA was the example she used. But she says, what about those relating to the Airports Authority, or even health services or other areas? Do we see some of the things that go on there? And is it, as she shared, a system whereby all of the workings of the statutory authorities and the other boards, that they're always public as much as possible, simply because the decisions that they make should affect and concern the general public. It shouldn't be that they're that confidential, that it's an issue that their information shouldn't come to the public's attention. Now, she questioned whether or not, those things that are published, the minutes, for instance, they may be a day or a week or sometime later. Why can't, the information be provided beforehand? And as we were referencing her thoughts, or similar thoughts earlier of a fellow, realize that people have those little issues. But what is your view? 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, you can share your perspective with us. 1-800-534-8255 or toll free 1-800-534-8255 or toll free 1-800-534-8255. That is the toll free number that we have. Now, you can also WhatsApp 925-3261, or you can call us if you're not able to access our toll free line 949-8037, 949-8037. And we have another way for you to access if you want to choose. Some of you send us sometimes what amounts to almost an epistle. That's on our email. It certainly happened to go through some of that. Someone sent something similar. It wasn't necessarily nor expected for it to be read on the air, but it took us through a number of different links, and it was interesting to read, and had to do a lot with the whole issue that in this developing society, the person's perspective is that we've seen in his mind, at least as he shared it with us, that we're not paying attention sufficiently to the air quality. He shared that where he's living, a lot of development. So as the big trucks come in to bring the construction material and to drop the fill for the site, and as the cement gets underway, a lot more congestion on the area's roads, a lot more vehicles emitting fuels now. It isn't, he says, as bad as it is in other places he's worked or lived or traveled. But do we know what our air quality is like today versus 20 years ago? He also questions the whole idea that are we paying attention as we build our buildings higher and higher? He gave us an example of West Bay Road. How many realize as they drive from, as best as they can from one end to the next, there's a segment where, as you look over to the west, to the sea, you should notice two things. One, you can't see the sea. You don't know that it's beyond those high-rise buildings. And two, maybe obvious, but he shared. How many have paid attention that the road is heavily shaded, even in the early part of the day? Partly because as the sun travels further, the buildings, the 10-story plus buildings, are blocking the sun. Now, how, if anything, is that affecting the surrounding area? He sent us some interesting issues that we were looking at, and I thought very, very enlightening. So thanks for sending that. Let's pause and take a break. When we come back, more Open Line.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Get your car washed with Diamond Auto Care. $20 car wash special. $30 for SUVs, interior and exterior. Call 928-7336. Diamond Auto Care will leave your car with a sparkle and shine. Only $20. Call 928-7336.
The Country Time 40 just keeps rolling on.
Hi, this is Bob Kingsley, and this weekend on the Countdown, the 40 hottest hits on the radio right here.
CT40. This here's Saturday afternoon
from 12:15 until 3:30.
CT40 Milestone. Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
A 21-year-old man of Georgetown has been formally charged with 12 offenses, including arson, dangerous driving, escaping lawful custody, and assaulting police. He is appearing in court today. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, U.S. congressional talks over a border security deal have stalled, raising the chances of another government shutdown. Negotiators were hoping for a deal by today to give Congress time to pass legislation by Friday when the federal funding agreement runs out. The previous shutdown was the longest in U.S. history, lasting 35 days. Manchester United's ex-manager Jose Mourinho is to host his own show on Russian TV channel RT, formerly known as Russia Today. 56-year-old Mourinho will provide analysis of Champions League's games in the fortnightly football program. And Disney granted everyone's wish on Sunday when they finally gave a first look at Will Smith's Blue Genie in the new live-action version of Aladdin. Unfortunately, many fans were not impressed with what they saw and were quick to say so on social media. The trailer was revealed midway through the Grammy Awards. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today. Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, you can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us as you so choose. It's open line. We invite you to be a part of our continued discussion. Quick comment just during the break. Someone off here who messaged through, sending a thought in relation to the workings of the RCIPS, and has asked us to commend them publicly, and not only for their increased vigilance and presence on the roads, but to say, from this motorist, that their efforts are much appreciated, and hopefully that they continue to be vigilant, not just for those who are driving, whilst under the influence or without what seems to be maybe on roadworthy vehicles, that they continue to do their job. And given the next few days with the music festival, to recognize that they're probably going to be stretched somewhat dealing with the increased numbers. So it's good to see our people sometimes take time to reflect that services like the police and other emergency uniform personnel don't always go in such a way that the public shows appreciation. So to that particular listener who sent through those sentiments, well, I hope that it's reflective of the rest of us and show appreciation for the good work that our men in uniform continue to do. 949, well, I should say men and women, because sometimes if you don't specify, people might think you only, it's like the word guy. Do you say that and mean only male? Or is it like people these days, guy and guys, male and female? So all those in uniform, thanks for your public service. Hey, 949-8037, 949-8037, or toll free at 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Comment from one of our other listeners here who has asked simply, has the country identified its priorities? Listed out a couple of things as I look at it. I made some notes. One was the whole issue that the development plan seems to be under review. Should that not be priority number one? This person asked. We're looking, and as I was reading through the message that's sent through, I recognize that this person has obviously been looking at things from a perspective that maybe for some of us long overdue. This person says, we're considering new proposals for education and healthcare. We're looking at the expenditures relative to the ports, airport and the seaport. And then it says, what about our roads and development? Resources are being stretched thin. To what extent is the populace aware of these increase, or potential increase in taxes to fund and support these programs? Now, maybe this listener has an insight that some of us don't. What is your view? Do you believe, as a country, not just as a government, do we have a list of priorities? Are those sufficiently shared by the populace, and perhaps even shared with the populace? We accuse sometimes, and perhaps unfortunately, levy heavy criticism at an elected government. But do we actually fully understand the mandate, the objective, the potential vision that the government has embarked upon? Now, is that because we haven't been paying attention? Is it, as some have shared, it hasn't been sufficiently conveyed? Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you doing, my friend?
Very blessed and thankful, my friend. How are you today?
You're supposed to say, Well, I'm not. I'm good as you. I'm not as good as you, but I'm good. I thought you were gonna throw that one back at me.
I was thinking it, but I said no. Not today, Bobo.
Anyway, what? Not today, Bobo. That's right. Anyway, I heard you saying something about talking about the different public authorities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't understand some of the salaries and stuff that one authority gets, and the other one is just basically a pittance. I mean, there's got to be some kind of reason there. But anyway, what I wanted to say was you were just talking about the stuff that the different departments, stuff like that. I didn't know why they didn't give the planning department their what they make. They had everything else, everybody else there, but I think it was planning department, somebody else. What I want to say is this, Sterling, and when people hear me complaining and making noise, it's because of the laxity I see in government now. Now we're going to give you something. This has to do with the planning department, and I'm not picking on nobody. These just factual things I'm talking about that shouldn't be, because when I would be some time ago, a bunch of us would see Heber asked with the chairman, and we were going by the book. We did everything by the book. Occasionally, we might have a case where I remember one case down in Boston Bay, where a young guy who had been, he had a problem with ganja and stuff like that, and somehow he spent a little time in jail or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, he straightened his life out. He came back out. And he got married. He was doing good, had a job and all that. And this house was a foot too close to the property line. Okay?
A foot.
Now, we discussed that. And I said, gentlemen, this is where we have to use our discretion here. Okay, because this is something good. I said a young man is trying to make a living. He got a great family. They're ready to go into the little house. We can't tell them no now. So we'll use our discretion here and give him that thing without him having to go back to the planning, all that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple thing. 1 foot too close to the property line. Here now, I see, I don't know who it is, whether we don't have inspectors in planning or nobody doesn't check anything. But I see right down in front of the Wesleyan Church down there, they're building something on the Orange Road, and they got an 8-foot wall. I called in planning about that, and I said, why are we allowing this guy to put 8 feet of wall, solid concrete block, in front of this building? It looks terrible. They stopped it. I don't know, planning must have told them. They stopped it because they got half it done and the rest of it is just sitting there. Now, nobody's taking down anything. Them things, based on the planning authority, I know that and the building code. In fact, we didn't have a building code that came from 86. Mm-hmm. And code says it shouldn't be more than 4 feet high, about 3'6", depending where you at. And then above that, you could have like the metal thing so you could see through it.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is solid block up to 8 feet. Now, my question is this. Who was inspected at best down to look at that and let them do it? You got down the road, a little bit down the road there, where they're building other stuff, too close to the road. You got a Chinese building down there, just past Lee Crow's, and them down going to Norwest Point. It's not the distance away from the 20 feet away that it's supposed to be from the road. You see, they get away with it. Somebody, I don't blame the planning department now. Here's what I'll tell you. Somebody up higher who knows who this belongs to will come down and say, no, God, just let them have it. And they should be telling who, I don't care if it's the governor. If you want to change my decision here, you have to change the law because I'm going by the law. That's what we need to do. But you see, the politicians that do these kind of things, they come down and say, yeah, you got to give him that. He's a friend of mine. Blah, 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 don't worry about it, I'll take care of it, blah, blah, blah. We got to stop that because that is corruption. And we can't continue to do that. There's another house down in Boston Bay where a foot and a half from the edge of the road. They will get ready to put down some. I guess they were going to add some parking space or something like that. But they built this thing up to about a foot and a half high. It's just a flat concrete block thing going down through there. And if you go up both the way going toward, come up Berkeley Hill Road and you go up to going toward Paragallo, you can't miss it. It's about a foot and a half from the edge of the road, from the asphalt that's there. Now, that is definitely a violation of the code. I've spoken to planning department, but I've talked to the people that I know in the planning authority, and nobody has done it. In fact, the people have moved in there, and the concrete structure is still there. We used to make people move stuff. These guys don't do it.
If I could ask you at some point, and if it's not a question that you have time to answer just yet, based on your expertise and your experience, both as a practicing professional but also as a very involved member of our community, and as you said, sharing on the planning board. Again, over the last few days, we've had conversations with different individuals who were sharing their view that many of our boards, and with great respect, the CPA, the Planning Authority, was one that was sort of used as an example. They shared, the comments shared were twofold. One, that perhaps, like Mr. Miller has suggested repeatedly and often, that we should look more to inviting advertising for the prospective members to come forward as opposed to political appointments. And then secondly, when we appoint or somehow, nominate or put people on these boards, that we should be mindful that we don't put, let's say for instance, all developers and architects and the people involved in the construction industry on a planning board, or, all medical people on the hospital's board, or all people in the aviation sector on the aviation board. What's your view on those two things, the appointments to the boards and then the composition of the boards?
Yeah, well, my opinion there is that when Mr. Hewer and a bunch of us were there, guys that were there, all of it was a variation of people. You even had people that had no idea, but I think the Mr. Cookland Dixon wife was on there. She didn't think, but she's not an architect, but she would people that was elected to be on that board were people that we felt would give us would do justice to whatever plans were passed and all that kind of thing. Today, look at it. The planning authority today, not the plan. I mean the planning authority, that's planning board. They have contractors. They got people who are doing drawings and stuff like that, and it's made up of building suppliers and everything. And there's so much, in my opinion, there's so many areas of conflict of interest. Because when we would do anything, if anything came up, when I was on there as an architect and something came up, I walked out of the building. I didn't want to be near the building. I would walk out of the building, and I told someone to call me when they finished. That's how we used to do things. If somebody was a building supplier, and he walked out of the thing and he gave us a thing, I'm not sure that's happening now. You see? And these are the things that when I see these things, Dwayne, if somebody going down that road, that Varkas Road, after you come around Berkeley Hill there, and it's right on a bend, So you're not going to even see that thing, but if you see a car coming, you're going to switch over to the other side, and you're going straight into that concrete block wall that they got there about a foot and a half from the road.
But is that planning that should be monitoring that, or what's your thought?
But plan, it should never got enough. That should never got enough. The building that they got, if they had left that, I would say I would agree that it's tight, but they could have done. That could have went by with their discussion and stuff. They got it with that far back from there, but then they built this thing in front, and they already got people sitting. And I do what they intended. The intention was they were going to build that piece at the back and then come back again. Now I'm going to show you something else that is totally. And I don't know who the surveyor was, and when he surveyed that, but I've never in my life seen that beach there that far out. But that building that's past El Fresco, that 3-4 story building they got there, which is right up on the road. Oh my God! But I know when that first hurricane come or that nor'wester comes, it can tumble into the sea just like that building up there by the old market. Because this one is so top heavy, and I know they don't have no pilings there. They wetted it, they dug a hole and started the foundation about like a little basement there, but that can't carry the load that I see hanging up on that building. And it already looks like it's got a slight lean to the seaside. But make them go ahead. But when these things happen like that, and they pass these things, and then down the road, it's going to come back to haunt us, because what's going to happen now, when the sun starts to eat away from that building, when that stuff starts to happen and the bad weather come in, and then the sea wash up against the wall, it creates a turbulence there, and when it goes back out, it takes the sand out with it. And as soon as they see that, now they're going to come back begging the government that they should do something to put a sea wall or something in front. And that is what's going to ruin the beach. So then and I don't know, again, I don't know who the surveyor was, but if you look at that map in the plan, the Land and Survey Department, it looks like about 10 feet further out than the beach to the left or the right. That one little spot, nothing else, These are the things that I say that I call corruption, because nobody can make me believe that that land was that far. But somebody must have submitted something saying it was, and I don't know who that is. But I'm telling you, these are the things that ruin this island. And until we get the day where we say we can do what's right, Sterling, it breaks my heart when I see what's happening in Cayman.
Yeah, man.
And nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to care.
Well, at least you do, and you keep
but
consistent voice.
But I expect people that are in there. How many find out? Oh, here's another one. And I'll leave it then.
Okay.
There's one of the busiest restaurants on 7 Mile Beach, right? They got about 5 or 6 handicapped parking spaces in front. Are you there?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
They got about 5 or 6 handicapped parking spaces in front. They got 2 ramps, 2 supported ramps. They're just a little piece they're going up, and they got a little sidewalk in front of the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you get on that sidewalk, you got another 6-inch step, a 6-inch step to go into the building. On all, you got 3 doors, and each one of them had the same thing. They got a men's and a women's bathroom there. No handicapped bathroom, In fact, to get to the men's and the women's bathroom, you have to make 2 steps up, and neither wheelchair can get up on that. They're too small. They got about the cubicles in there for the urinal and the water closet are about 2 feet wide, not more than 2 feet, 2.5 at the most, which is violation of every kind. Yeah. You tell me we don't have inspectors going out to these places and say, sorry, you have to get it, do something about it. And I know how it can be done, and I talk to some people about it, but nobody's doing anything about it. And why is that? That's the question I have.
There it is, man. Hey, listen, thanks for sharing, and perhaps you keep talking. Somebody will actually hear one day and do something about it. With that, let's just pause quickly, take our final break for the program. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Can you imagine where Cayman runs off renewable energy? We can. Learn how you can join government and be an energy advocate.
Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure's Facebook page to learn more.
Plastic pollution is a global issue. Even our beautiful islands can't escape plastic being found on our beaches and in the ocean. Together, we can change this. We can start by taking the 345 Pledge, which is a personal commitment to make better choices in our everyday lives. I am Kelsey Woodman-Bodden, Miss World Cayman Islands, and in a united effort for Cayman to be more environmentally friendly for the betterment of our future generations, I challenge all residents to take the 345 Pledge, which can be found at plasticfreecayman.com.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Hi, my name is Neraya LeBlanc. I am the minister and evangelist to the West Bay Church of Christ on 24 Batabano Road. I would love to take this opportunity to invite you to experience God's family at West Bay for yourself. We are a caring congregation that strongly believes in reaching out beyond ourselves to spread the gospel of Christ. We also take great pleasure in ministering to the needs of our people in our community. As God's called out kingdom people, we are in the business of transforming lives for the Master's use. For more information, you can visit our website at westbaycichurchofchrist.org or call us at 946-9294 or 917-1809.
Declaring the word of the Lord. Cayman Islands Church of Christ presents Word of the Lord.
Word of the Lord, heard Sundays at 6:30 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Just a quick message during the break I was looking at. A person picking up on the points of the last caller. We'll try to read it as it was sent, but I was thinking, would it incite you? And if so, would it do it in a way that may be irresponsible? But this person shares, okay, we use the word corruption. Perhaps may not be what it is. Maybe it is. But is, as this person writes, is the willingness to expedite something so that a business gets operational corrupt? Is it looking at some of the bureaucracies and saying, they are a bit challenging and expensive, so let's see if we can work around it? Is that corrupt? The person does comment and say that it's probably a lot of corruption, or at least the perception is such, but is that part and parcel of what it takes to keep an economy like this going, or to even get it started in the first place? But one comment that the person shares is that in the Cayman context, we're trying to copy first world policies. It lists a couple of things, the whole notion of handicap accessibility and the like, to the adoption of so much so many other policies that we see in more advanced developed societies, that they're probably to our detriment. This person gives the example of two things. One, the number of parking spaces for handicap, and the amount of required, as a percentage of the parking spaces. Now, the person writes very clearly, says, not sure what a percentage of the people in our population that it is handicapped, but certainly, do we have enough, or in some cases, have you acknowledged that there may be, too many? Certainly in some, I would probably share that they're not enough. Take some of the larger sort of retail complexes. We see a few spaces, but are they enough for those who have the handicap? Not, acknowledging only that there are some of us who don't have the requisite permission with our plates and the decals to park in these spaces. Thankfully, I believe that practice is gradually weaning, but nonetheless, it is happening. But now we see a practice at the Health Services Authority, where we have not only the handicapped spaces, but the reserved spaces for our elderly. I think a very convenient way, and certainly a strong recognition of the respect that we should have for our elderly, and equally, maybe recognizing that perhaps a large percentage of the customers, you say patients, who use the facility are in fact elderly. Now, that probably would amount to good customer service. It perhaps would translate into a society that is showing an increasing deference and appreciation for its elderly. Now, as this person has written, in our adoption of policies and legislation from other jurisdictions, are we cognizant of some of the challenges that are being faced by businesses in order to continue into business, to get operational and to remain operational? But to the caller's point prior, are we prepared to turn a blind eye, and does that amount to corruption? Are we actively willing to accept, as we see in other, as this writer shares, we see in other jurisdictions very corrupt practices. You have something that needs approval, and someone is able to influence another. Maybe it's monetary contribution, maybe it's some other material gifting, and the approval is had. Now, hopefully, my view of our society isn't unfounded, but I believe that the people that we have at the helm are ethical and honorable. They're certainly not prepared to accept some of these gifts or inducements or bribes some would share, because they're much too professional and much too willing to remain above board. Now, you may have a different perspective. You may have witnessed a different practice. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. I certainly ask you to make a note of those numbers and continue to share your thoughts with us. The public WhatsApp is 925-3261. And likewise, our Talk Today email is talktoday@candw.ky. Now, those who continue to share your thoughts with us, certainly appreciate it as we relay them to our listeners. Keeps us informed and engaged. And as we've seen, if the public is engaged and informed, is willing to remain active, then not only will the politicians who are duly elected be cognizant of that and try to ensure that their policies and proposals for either new legislation or amendment are reflective of the views of the populace, but if we expect to hold the politicians accountable, are we equally expecting ourselves to be actively engaged and responsible, participating citizens in our own society? I invite you to enjoy the rest of this afternoon. Hopefully your week will be safe and productive. If I can, on behalf of the almost now growing countless number of motorists who have asked, can you make a daily appeal to those out there on the roads to be a little bit more cautious, be a little bit more considerate, be a little bit more careful, not just because we have more people on the roads, more visitors to our shores, but simply because we're using the roads, and if we are not mindful, we could be in a mishap. It could be expensive, it could be fatal. And if we will be a little bit more cautious and pay attention to the rules of the road, acknowledging that it'd be better to arrive safe than not at all, then maybe we'll slow down and pay attention and stop at the stop signs and the stoplights and give way where we're supposed to. And perhaps if traffic's moving slowly and someone's coming out, instead of them pushing their way out, as some would say, you graciously extend them to come out. Now, why not be cautious, considerate, and careful on our roads, and in that process, we all arrive safely. Come back tomorrow for more Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. I have a number of things in store for you, including an informative chat with our good folks from the Health Services Authority. That's tomorrow. Until then, be blessed.